Welcome to my little world of blush. Today we're going to do an updated ranking on all of the cream blushes that I have in my collection. I've got 59 remaining that I haven't decluttered as of December when I did my end of the year declutter. I think I did this last year and I probably included liquid also, but I feel like my collection has just grown. I want to separate the creams from the liquids. I'll also do an updated powder blush ranking. So if you guys aren't currently subscribed and you are interested in seeing that, please hit that subscribe button so you can stick around. This video has taken me over a week to film because I wanted to apply all of these formulas to the cheeks so that you guys can see these products in action. I thought that would be fun. I also thought it would be helpful in case you guys were interested in checking out any of these formulas. I will also be linking them in the description box, including shade if I happen to skip over one and don't mention it, or if I don't try on any of the shades that I end up swatching for you guys. I always do my ranking starting at the worst blush in my collection according to me, and I work my way up to my favorite. However, I will say, you guys, my preferences change all the time. Sometimes a blush can be my favorite one week and I'll get a new favorite the next week. So don't take this ranking too seriously. This is just a little bit of fun. Also note that I apply these with pretty much anything that's like available to me. A sponge, a brush. Sometimes I tap it out with my fingers. Sometimes I draw it straight onto my cheeks. It's not always the best way to apply these products, but doing these try-ons and trying 59 different formulas, I was kind of using what I had available. Sometimes they apply better with different applicators. I am only including the blushes that I've already done a speed reviews on, so anything that's in like the testing phases or is brand new to me is not going in this ranking yet because I really don't want to give it any kind of ranking or review when I haven't actually properly tested it. And also I didn't include any blushes in here you can't get your hands on anymore. There were some that I had in my collection that are just no longer available or they were limited edition, etc. So I excluded those. This video is going to be on the longer side, you guys. I'm pretty sure. I tend to be a long-winded talker, so buckle in. Let's get started. Oh, and I also want to mention to you guys that I love all different finishes and all different formula blushes. I'm just a blush lover in general. The thing that I really don't like in a blush that tends to turn me away is when something is super sheer, like super duper sheer, and it doesn't last very long. I think there's a time and place for that kind of product, but for me, I don't ever reapply any of my makeup, so something a little bit more long lasting is usually mostly of interest to me. So let's start off with the bottom, you guys. The bottom blushes for me are the Instant Crush Cream Blushes from ColourPop. They had 8 shades that released last year. I picked up 5 shades. I've only held on to 2 of these. The more purpley shade that I have is in Coyote, and the red shade is in Sunset Strip. The reason I held on to these 2 shades is because I felt that they were very unique in my collection, but I had decluttered all the other ones. The reason these landed at the bottom is because they have a ton of different issues for me. One, packaging. A lot of the mirrors were broken when they arrived to me. Also, a lot of the glue had come off of the actual pan itself and most of these are like falling out. Additionally, the lighter shades had started to turn colors. They started to get darker and they immediately started to have a scent. So there were a lot of different things that were like, wow, these are just not formulated well at all. I actually kind of like the way that these look on the cheeks. These are supposed to offer a natural matte finish. They do feel like they have a ton of silicone in them. So they're very slippy. You really do have to like build this formula up to get decent pigmentation. But the formula genuinely feels like a pore filling primer in texture. I think that's what they mean by natural matte finish. Imagine the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. That's kind of what they feel like. I like these shades, don't get me wrong. When they get to the cheeks, they're actually pretty nice. They're not super long lasting, but they do blend into the skin very nicely. And both of these shades are very unique in my collection. The purple one especially, I really like. It's such a cool tone, like actual purple that shows up on my skin. And the red is good too. It's not like overly red, but I think these colors kind of look similar on the cheeks because they're just a little bit more muted. Again, they blend well, but they have this weird kind of powdery finish that feels like, I'm telling you, a poreless diffusing primer like the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. And because those other shades basically turned and started to smell, these ones seem fine. These just kind of landed at the bottom for me. I could do without that formula in my collection. Next up, you guys, I have talked about this product and liking it in the past. It's the Pixi On The Glow Blush. This is the Tinted Moisture Stick in the shade Juicy. I think it's interesting packaging. I think a lot of people have liked this. I myself have liked it. I think that it's thin enough of a formula that if you're working with like a sheer base product, you can draw this on. I have drawn this on in the cutaway. So far as I know, this only comes in 4 shades, so it's not like a super extensive line. but it is formulated with really hydrating properties and things that are supposed to be good for your skin. It comes with ginseng, aloe vera, a unique blend of fruit extracts. It's supposed to essentially be a tinted balm. I like it. I actually think that you can get more than full-on sheer coverage. It's meant to be more of like a highlighting balm that gives you this ultimate glow, and it does all of that. I don't think it's overly long-lasting, and I think it remains sticky, so it's not my favorite finish or texture on the skin. I think I'm just overall a fan of products that dry down a little bit, and this one doesn't. It isn't bad, but it's definitely a formula that I could see myself letting go of and not missing. Next up, this is a limited edition product, but it is still available for sale. It's the Pretty Grunge face gloss from Huda Beauty. It's meant to be a sheer multi-use formula that you can use on your cheeks and lips. It has what's called pH bloom in it, so it's basically clear until you start applying it to your skin or to your lips. I actually think that it looks pretty nice when it gets to the skin. It's more of a hard formula, so it's not sticky. It does not leave a sticky finish on your cheeks, which is really nice. It is something that they claim. I think it applies pretty evenly as far as a pH face gloss goes. Again, it's just a formula that I feel like I could live without. It was definitely nicer than I thought it was going to be. I picked this up to review the Pretty Grunge collection, and because it performed pretty well, that it didn't get patchy, that it did blend pretty seamlessly into the skin in an even way, and it didn't leave that sticky finish, but it was very dewy and juicy on the skin. But it's 39 bucks for this thing. It's just not a product that I find myself going, oh my gosh, that's the blush I want to reach for. Hey, that Pretty Grunge face gloss, where is it? So I think that's just kind of why it ranked where it did. It's not bad at all. But again, I could see myself decluttering this and not feeling bad about it. All right, next up is going to be super unpopular opinion, and that is, I'm fully fine with that. That's fine with me, you guys. It's the ColourPop Super Shock Blush. This is in the matte finish. I have mine in the shade Count Me In. I've talked about not liking these before. This is a newer one to me. I think I got this in a mystery box from ColourPop in November. I think it looks beautiful on the skin. I mean, this was a super innovative formula when it came out because it was a cream that was a matte finish, a cream to powder finish. It just feels like it has a ton of silicone-like properties. There's no actual silicone in the ingredients of this product, but it just feels so slippy. And at the end, it has like this kind of oilier powder finish that just feels weird. But these products specifically in this matte finish, they dry out on me so fast. I actually do like the longevity of this. I like how kind of airbrushed it looks on the cheeks, but I do feel like this product wears out super quickly, and I feel like I'm always racing against the clock to try and get to it before it does dry out so I can get some use out of them. I believe this is my second or third shade that I've ever had from them. Never got a ton of use out of the other ones, specifically because they dried out for me. So just overall kind of a finickier formula for me personally. Again, not a formula I think to reach for. There's so many other ones that I feel like do a better job than this. Next up, you guys, is the Undone Beauty Water Blush. I have mine in the shade 294 Peach. I used to love this as well, and I have seen other creators compare this against the Milk Makeup Chilly Cooling Water Tint that just came out. I just don't think these are as good. It is cooling. When you touch it to your skin, it does perform like a stain. I think you can draw these onto the cheeks. I think in this kind of stick format, it's meant to. I do pick this one and the one from Milk up with a brush, and it seems to buff into the skin. I work a little bit harder with the Undone Beauty Water Blush than I do the Milk Makeup one to get it to seamlessly blend into the cheeks. But I told you guys, very long lasting. It's not a sticky formula. It's basically like a stain. This has a really high shine, glossy finish to it. I just feel like I work a little bit harder. And every single time I get it to my cheeks with this particular product, I'm like, it's okay, it's all right. And because I feel like I work a little bit harder with this than some of my other blushes, but most specifically the one from Milk Makeup, just not my favorite. Again, definitely something I could see myself getting rid of and not feeling bad about it. The next ones that I have up, you guys, are the Fenty, full name of this, Cheeks Out Freestyle Cream Blush. I have 3 shades. Red shade is in Strawberry Drip, the orangey shade is in Fuego Flush, and then the mauve shade is in Riri. I actually like the way these look on the cheeks. I came really late to the game in trying these because they came out, what, 3 years ago at this point? I picked up 3 shades because I was sure I was gonna love this formula. but it wasn't what I was expecting. This is way more sheer. It's way more of a flush of color. I don't think it looks bad on the cheeks. I just don't think it's as intense as I like. I think my favorite shade is probably Riri, which is the shade I'm putting on last in this video because I think the pigmentation is just a little bit more intense. But yeah, these are not at all what I was expecting. The dewy finish though is not sticky, but these aren't long-lasting blushes. And I told you guys, I just don't love sheer and products that don't last super long on me as much as I do other ones. And I think the difference sometimes is that the ones that have more radiance that are a little bit longer lasting are a little bit of a thicker formula. These ones from Fenty are on the thin side. Again, another product that I feel like I could see myself getting rid of and I wouldn't miss because I have so many others that offer that dewy, radiant finish that last longer than these do and are more pigmented. The next one that I had up was the About Face Cheek Freak Blush Balm. I have mine in the shade Quickie. I think these are really good, so I don't want to discount the fact that they perform really well. They're a lightweight balm that's very buildable. They don't come out super pigmented. They do remind me a lot of the formula of the ColourPop Instant Crush Cream Blushes though, that they feel very powdery at the end. These are a pretty long-lasting formula. However, I will say, like the ColourPop, I think the performance of these are best in like the first 6 months. I feel like the formula kind of changed and dried out a little bit. They weren't as pigmented, they weren't as long lasting. They were like a little bit more silicone feeling after about the first 6 months of having this product. Again, it's diffusing nicely with a natural finish on the skin, but I don't find the longevity has lasted as much as it did when I first got this product. I felt like this product lasted all day. It was a super buildable formula, had again, like a natural finish with a very, very slight like radiance to it that wasn't sticky or anything. It wasn't wet to the touch. It felt like good and hydrating. This does have hyaluronic acid and meadow foam seed oil in it that's supposed to make it like a more lightweight feel. And that's what I kind of mean by like the powder finish that feels like silicone. It's kind of the meadow foam seed oil that makes the formula feel like that. Again, good product, best in the first 6 months. Totally a buildable formula, not super pigmented. Next up are the Velvet Touch Creamy Stick Blushes from Kiko Milano. I have the shades 08, which is the more mauve shade, and 03, which is the more peach shade. I purchased these on Amazon, I want to say for like $9.99, but I think you can get them now on Ulta's website for $10.99. I'm sorry, I apologize. I just looked them up. They're $14 on Ulta's website, and I think that's fairly new. Like, I don't remember these always being on Ulta's website. These are meant to give you a radiant flush on the cheeks. They are not like meant to be like intensely pigmented, as you can see when I'm applying them. They're more of a buildable formula, even though the swatches look pretty opaque. I like the radiant finish. It's supposed to be a soft, focused finish. It offers like an all-day kind of radiant glow. I think they are pretty long-lasting. The reason these ranked where they did, honestly, is because they're a more finicky formula for me. It takes me a little bit longer to get these to apply evenly to the cheeks. And also, they lay on top of powder terribly. I powder in like that order, you know? I usually powder my face after concealer, and then I put blush on. And so I've laid these on top with like a brush, like stamping them into the cheeks. And then the formula started to pill up on top of the powder. They do have oils in them. A lot of these products do. They have something called Africa Walnut Oil, and that could be a formula that just doesn't jive with the heavier powders that I use. But I have so many other stick products that I do that with that I never have any issues with. So I find that this formula is a little bit more finicky. But again, slight radiant finish, lasts a good amount of the day. I think that a lot of their shades are pretty flattering. They do look very like airbrushed and diffused on the skin, but I do find that I work a little bit harder to get an even blend. The next one that I have is the Cheeky Posh Cream Blush Stick from Victoria Beckham. I think that sticks I just grade a little bit harsher because they're a product that's meant to be drawn onto the cheeks, but not all of these products do that very well. Plus this retails for $42. By the way, I have mine in the shade Knickers, which is a peach shade. This is so similar to the Velvet Touch Creamy Sticks that it is a more buildable formula, that it is supposed to offer this weightless velvet feel on the skin, that is supposed to give you like luminous all day wear. The Kiko Velvet Touch Stick and the Victoria Beckham are so freaking similar. The real real difference between the two is the Victoria Beckham sits on top of powder perfectly. I never have to work extra hard to get this to lay on top of my foundation like the way I normally apply my makeup. I think this ranked where it did is because it's more sheer. The way that it looks on my cheeks just doesn't excite me the way that some of these other products do. I think that's just what it comes down to. But it is $42 as compared to the Kiko, which is $14. I have to say, like, these next set that's sitting in front of me, like, it's been getting down to the point where it's going to get more difficult for me to rank these. The middle section always is, but we must move on. So the next one that I have up is the LYS Higher Standard Satin Matte Cream Blush. I have mine in the shade Self Love. I used to love this formula. It's just been beat out by so many others that have come out since then. This is pretty high pigment, but it does offer a natural looking, slightly luminous finish to it. I would say this is a buildable formula. It's just more like highly pigmented than some of my other ones that claim to be buildable. This is made with kaolin clay. It does have several different oils in it, so it's supposed to be like smoothing and hydrating on the skin. It's probably what gives you that kind of glossy finish at the end. I never love the way that this looks on my cheeks in comparison to some of the other products that I have in my collection. I just feel like the pigment kind of like gets everywhere. It just creates like a hot mess flush on my cheeks. I don't love it the way that I feel like I have control over some other products. I do think it's a pretty long lasting formula. I just feel like it's finicky for me. Like, depending upon whether or not I use like the butt end of a sponge or a brush, it just kind of like looks different. If you can see my product, like it has like an indentation, that is because I literally take the butt end of a sponge and like spin it in there and then tap it onto the cheeks. That's honestly my favorite way to apply this product because it gives me the most seamless, like easy airbrushing blend, where I feel like a brush just is like a hot mess because it is a pretty pigmented product. So not my favorite overall, decently performing, but there are other ones I feel like just look better on the cheeks. The next one that I have up is the Wander Beauty On The Glow Blush and Illuminator Stick Blush. So one side has a highlighter and the other one has a blush. This is actually a multitasking product. You can use the blush side for your lips, your cheeks. I think this is actually a pretty decent formula that nobody talks about. It did win a Allure Best of Beauty back in 2018, so it's a little bit of an older product. However, the packaging has been updated since then. I feel like this is pretty similar to the LYS in that it's pretty highly pigmented, but at the end it's supposed to give you like illumination. It's a slight glow. It does have the same longevity as the LYS, which is pretty good. I like this one a little bit more because I like the way that this looks on the cheeks a little bit better than the LYS one does. I feel like it's less of a finicky formula. It doesn't really matter what tool I'm using to apply this, but I feel like I've been talking about very similar formulas in like the last 5, which is products that you feel like would be like a cream to powder formula, but end up having like an illumination to them, even though they're a little bit more pigmented. So for example, the LYS, I feel like the Kiko Milano, same thing, all supposed to give you kind of that natural, like luminous, lit from within kind of glow. I'll just wrap it up with, I like the product. Again, it's the finished effect on my cheeks that I don't love over some of the other blushes that I have in my collection. I actually really hate to put this next one where it is, but I think I have to because every time I put this on, it never gives me like the wow factor. This is the Desert Date Cream Multi-Stick from Ami Collet, and I like several Ami Collet products that I have tried. Their mascara, favorite, one of my favorite. Top 3. And also their lip oil, also like top 3 lip oils. I was hoping that I would fall in love with this, but there's just something about the way that it applies to the cheeks. By the way, I have mine in the shade Dune. It never comes out as pigmented as I want it to. This one did win Allure Best of Beauty for 2023, and this is supposed to be a buildable, like soft matte formula. It's also a multi-stick. Again, it's supposed to be for lips and cheeks. It's supposed to give you like a soft focus effect, like a blurred tint on the skin. It's a fairly creamy formula. This does have like, I think 2 different types of oils in it, like some sort of flower seed extract in it as well. It just never lays like super evenly on the cheeks. And part of that is when like these stick blushes are so small, I have a hard time picking them up on my brush. So sometimes that's what it comes down to, is like, I'm just not getting an even application on my brush. And so it's not laying evenly on the cheeks. I do wish this like had more pigment when it gets to the cheeks. I always feel like it's just a lot lighter than I'm expecting it to be. Maybe it's because of the shade, but also the shade is super deceiving, you guys. It has like this like deep intensity, like this rich almost terracotta shade, but every time I buff it into the cheeks, I'm like, why is this like look like a straight up warm peach color? So it's not an overall effect that I end up loving on my cheek. I feel like it's missing like a couple of things. Like every time I put it on, I'm like, wait a minute, wait. How come that's not as like intense as I thought it was going to be? That's kind of it in a nutshell. It just comes down to, I wish this just looked a little bit more even and more pigmented when it got to the cheek. The next ones I have are the same thing. These are the Playdate multi-use cream and lip colors from AF94. This is the more affordable line that's sold in Walmart from About Face. These might have even moved to Ulta at this point. I don't know. I think maybe I saw them or I heard they were moving to Ulta. I have liked these, and I've liked these better than I think the Chic Freak by the time I tested these. These are more of a wash of color, and they start out that way. They have a ton of waxes in the formula. They call it like a dreamy wash of like popsicle color, I think is kind of the description of these products. I have the orangey shade in First Prize, and then I have the purple shade in If You Dare. I also think these matter, like how you pick them up. And when you draw it straight onto the cheeks with this product, it's so much prettier. It's so much more soft focused and airbrush looking on the skin. I don't think this is like an overly long lasting formula because it does have like all those waxes in it, and it's like a creamier formula that kind of like slips around. But the purple shade, high recommendation. I think the darker, the better in these shades because they're so lightly pigmented. And I will say that these probably ranked where they did because of this shade in If You Dare. I feel like just looks so flattering on my cheeks. I just love the way that this one buffs into the skin. I had the purple one first, went back for the orange one because I thought, oh, I love this formula, but I don't really love the lighter shade, just not as intensely pigmented as this one is. Next up is a stick blush from Chanel, you guys. This is called the Le Beige Blush. This is in number 24, which is like a peachy shade. This is meant to be a more sheer and glowy blush. I think they even call this, like on their website, the Healthy Glow Sheer Color Stick is like the full name of this. I like it. Like again, it feels a lot like the AF94, which has like this like waxy texture. It really moves around. It's kind of easily blended into the skin. It gives you a soft focused effect, but it's again not very pigmented because it's a sheer formula. The reason this kind of ranked where it did, I have to say, is because Chanel went and threw like gold sparkles inside of this. Like it's not even finely milled, I don't know, luminosity within the pigmentation. It's straight up like glitter throughout, which just kind of makes the product feel a little bit cheap, and I don't feel like that shows at all on the skin. And as far as like the sheer glowy or stick blushes that I just talked about, I feel like this one has like the least amount of glow. It's more like a powder finish. Decent longevity to it, just not my favorite. Next up, you guys, is an intense one from Make Beauty. These are called the Heat Stroke Dewy Gel Tints. I have mine in the shade Inflamed, which is like looks like a red shade, but comes out like pretty bright orange on my cheeks. This thing is cool. It's cool for what it is, but it may not be everybody's personal preference. This is actually like a gel formula tint. I do think that it has like a staining property, so it's pretty long lasting on the cheeks, but this is like a perfectly intense pop of color that matches the amount of luminosity that this product gives you. So it lays super evenly on the skin because it is this gel formula. I never have any issue blending it in. I think it just lands where it does for personal preference, like alone, because it is so freaking intense. And honestly, I would be interested in trying other shades in this, but they're all so vibrant looking. Like when you look at the swatches, there's like maybe one in here that doesn't look like it would be like this super neon color. Even though it's like a super intense, glossy, radiant finish, like it does what it's supposed to do. It definitely makes your cheeks look voluminous and plump and dewy instead of just like greasy and weighed down. I feel like the gloss again just matches the pigmentation in here, and sometimes these products, they don't have an even amount of pigmentation to their glossiness, and that always seems to look funny on the skin. I think that kind of comes down to like what I see in the Wonder Beauty blush, what I see in the LYS is like sometimes you're just getting more pigment than gloss, and so I don't think that balance always looks super flattering, where this one matches both in intensity and glossiness. Next up is one I think that surprised me. This is the Milk Makeup Cooling Water Jelly Tint. I have mine in the shade Splash, which is like the purpley shade. I think that I thought I was going to like regret getting this shade, but I actually really like it. I don't think these are like as intense as they look like, even online and by like the color when you're looking at the actual product itself. I have defaced mine pretty well, specifically because like beating it up with a brush to apply it really does make the product look like not smooth anymore. I do not recommend putting these straight onto your cheeks and like buffing it out with your finger. I've seen like a lot of people do that, but I have tried that and it sticks where you kind of put it. However, I feel like when you take a brush, like the same way that you would any other like stick formula to pick it up and then buff it into the cheeks, it buffs in perfectly. And I've never had any trouble with a more dense brush or even a more fluffy brush. I feel like it moves the pigment around in this product enough to get like a really seamless application. I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought it was going to. It isn't intensely glossy, I don't think, like less so than some of the other ones that I was showing you guys already, but I think the stain here is like really beautiful and it's quite long lasting, and I like the way that this purpley splash shade looks on my cheeks. It just, overall the finish of it was a lot nicer than I was anticipating. I thought this was going to be more gimmicky of a product and just something for me to review, and ended up being something that I liked more than I thought it would, because I think it actually performs pretty well and the longevity is there. Oh, this next one pains me, I have to tell you guys. This is one I actually decluttered, but I pulled out of my declutter or reference pile so that I could talk about it in this video because it's a very popular product. This is the Merit Flush Balm. This one is in the shade Beverly Hills. This one pains me because it's such a good performing product. It's a really thin formula, so you can, I find, you can draw this straight onto the cheeks, and I don't find like it overly disturbs my foundation, like maybe a tiny bit, but it applies so evenly. It's so thin, you could literally tap the edges out with your finger. It looks so good. It's again one of those products where the luminosity matches the pigmentation. It looks very flattering on the skin. It does so in a really even way. I just wished it lasts longer than 5 minutes. That's literally my only issue with this product, is how quickly it fades off. And it's not meant to be a super long lasting blush, but how good would this product be if it performed the way it did, but it locked down just a little bit better? I think that's the only thing. In the cutaway, you guys, it looks as flattering in that cutaway as it does like in real life. It's really a beautiful product. I just wish it lasted a little bit longer. The next one that I have is an oldie, but still a goodie. You guys, this is the Milani Cheek Kiss Cream Blush. I have mine in the shade Nude Kiss. This is another product where I feel like the luminosity matches the pigmentation. This is supposed to be like a balm to gel formula that like melts into your skin to give you like this luminous, lit from within glow, and I think it does that. It has a decent longevity to it. It's a non-sticky formula. So all of those things like make it such a good like trusty workhorse product, and it's drugstore pricing. I think this retails still for like $10.99. I believe there's only like 4 shades in this line, so they could do to extend it like a little bit, unless I'm just like missing a couple of shades that they have in this line. Anyway, I just think it's like a trusty, super workhorse formula. It looks really good on the skin. I think it's a buildable formula, but it's still like a pretty intense pigmentation that lays like super evenly on the cheeks. It's just a really damn good product. There's just so many damn good products upcoming. It's really hard to like rank these, but I would totally get more shades in this. I think it's an old formula, but still a really good formula. All right, up next is an actual ColourPop formula that I love, but it's actually really hard to get your hands on this formula. They don't always have it. Right now it doesn't look like they even have it on ColourPop's website, but I think you can go to like Target and find this, like maybe even in stores. This is the Super Shock Cheek in the pearlized finish. I have mine in the shade No Way. This stays super creamy, like so much longer than the matte formula. I have had this particular product longer than I have had both of my matte formulas, the one that I have now and the one that I've already decluttered. This is just so beautiful on the skin. It's almost like this metallic finish, but it does what I feel like the matte does, but more pigmented and less dry. It's a much more creamy formula. It has this pearlized finish without it looking like glitters. I freaking love it. If I'm gonna rave about any particular ColourPop cheek formula, you guys, it's going to be this one. And I hardly hear anybody talk about the pearlized finished one, but I've talked about it so many times on my channel. It is a recommendation for me. The next one that I have up is the Rowan Cheeky Cream Blush. This one is in the shade Natural Rose. Another beautiful formula that matches pigmentation with luminosity really well. It is pretty lightweight on the skin. I would say even though it is buildable, it's still like more pigmented and even laying on the skin than like sheer. The only downside to this blush, as beautiful as it looks on the skin and as decently lasting as this particular product is, it has a sticky finish to it. That's basically the only thing. Everything else I mentioned and the way that it looks on the skin is quite delightful. It just has a little bit of a stickier, dewy finish. The next one that I have literally could have been transposed with the Rowan because they're so darn similar. This one is the Wander Beauty. They call this the Double Date Lip and Cheek Duo. The top shade is in Honeymoon, and at the bottom it has like a highlighting, basically gloss bomb. Again, I feel like here what makes this exceptional is that the pigmentation matches the luminosity. I don't know if anyone else notices that with their products, that sometimes you get less pigment and more dew. And when you have a luminous blush, it like matters how the pigment is and how evenly it lays on the skin with like different tools that you're using. This one is a pretty easy formula to work with. It is a gel textured blush. This one again is very similar to the Rowan because it is sticky, it has a stickier finish to it. And that's really the only thing that I notice. I think this one is even more intensely pigmented than the one from Rowan. It has good longevity, just like the Rowan one. I still think it's a damn good formula. I have raved about this product and I've talked about it saying like, nobody talks about this product. When they talk about cream blushes, like I don't see anyone with this in their collection. I got this at JCPenney in store and they do sell like some stuff on Sephora's website, but like I don't know if this one is there, like the On The Glow Blush and Illuminator Stick, but it's still a really good cream formula. The next one that I have is a little blush here from La Bouche Rouge. Again, nobody talks about La Bouche Rouge. These are just their stick blushes and they like change in name based on the shade. I think it's like this one is in La Blush Nude. It does come in compostable packaging. You can purchase like the actual permanent component for this, but it's quite expensive. Otherwise it just comes in like the tube like this and you put it basically like inside of this thing. I just like La Bouche Rouge. Again, not a lot of people talk about that brand on their channel. I feel like all of their stuff is very nice for a luxury brand. I have a couple of sticks upcoming that perform very similar to this, that they're like a cream to powder finish that is actually pretty creamy. This one's a little bit different. It's a little bit more sheer in terms of pigmentation. It's supposed to be like a wash of buildable color that gives you a natural, healthy glow. I love the way that this applies to the cheeks. Again, a creamier stick formula that I feel like you can draw on. And even though it has like this natural finish, it's still a really long lasting formula. The next one that I have is another multitasking product. This is the Cream Cheek and Lip Color from Honest Beauty in the shade Rose Pink. Another luminous blush. But I feel like, again, the pigmentation here matches the luminosity. Anytime you're tired of hearing me say that, I'm really sorry. This one is a little bit more unique than some of the other ones because it's a oil-free formula. I mentioned to you guys some of the other formulas that like had oils in them that made them like a more slippy formula. I feel like this one is a little bit more of a whipped cream texture, if that makes any sense. It has a little bit of stickiness to it, but I find that this blush dries down better than a lot of ones that have that radiance or intense pigmentation. For example, the Rowan and the Wander Beauty. This one just dries down a little bit better than both of those, and maybe even a little bit more pigmented, evenly pigmented than both of those. Incredible longevity. This is one blush for having a dewy finish that I feel like lasts on me all freaking day long. This will go nowhere and I don't even need to powder on top of it. I will say though, I have had other shades in this before and they have dried out on me faster than this one did that were newer products. So I don't know if it's been reformulated or if some of the shades are just a little bit different, but this one in Rose Pink is going strong and I love this one. I did declutter the other one, probably like the Coral Peach shade. I did not love that. It seemed like a different formulation for me. All right, next up is the cream blush from Bosma. That's literally what it's called, the cream blush. I have mine in the shade Mauve. I really enjoy this packaging. It slides open and then locks. I think some people have said like, oh, I don't love the packaging. Okay, love it or hate it. I actually do enjoy it. I love the way this looks on the skin. I think you do have to like dig in with a denser brush or a sponge to get like more pigment than sheen on this because it is got like oils in it. It's got aloe vera extract fact, I mean, some properties that are just meant to be like good for your skin, but the avocado oil in it does make it like a lighter weight, kind of slippier product. But I still think the amount of pigmentation that you get with a dense brush or a dense sponge with this matches the luminosity. I find it's a pretty long lasting formula too. It blends super seamlessly into the skin. This is a product where if I go too heavy with the pigmentation, I can like tap it out with my fingers, like along the edges, and I feel like it blends perfectly into the skin. It does have a radiant finish, but I feel like the radiance is a little bit more natural than maybe some of these other ones that tend to be a little bit more intense. Overall, I think it's a really good product from Bosma. Definitely interested in testing more from the brand. All right, coming up next, you guys, is one of the cheek fluffs from Half Magic. This one is in Don't Be a Doll. I'm a sucker for cream to powder formulas. It's a pillowy, cushiony feeling blush that applies like in a super even pattern on the cheeks that gives you good pigmentation that looks airbrushing. I think that's the quality that you get out of a cream to powder formula. And even if something feels like a cream to powder, they're not always. This one is. I think the formula really gives that like diffused airbrush look on the cheeks. I also think this is a really long lasting formula. The thing that like puts it down for me is honestly that I can see the outline of the pan already in the product, that I've dug so hard into this, only having used this product, I don't know, maybe 7 times total. So I feel like, you know, there's probably not a lot of product in here for it being like $22, and that's pretty much the only downside. Everything else about it, I really enjoy. I told you guys, I am a sucker for a cream to powder kind of like matte finish blush. Here's another one I don't think that many people talk about on their channel. I did get this in a BoxyCharm, but they sell this exact product on their website and I highly recommend it. It's the Primrose and Cheek. It's another lip and cheek product. This is the cream palette from Seraphine Botanicals. Pretty expensive. This does retail for $42 on their website. This product is so beautiful on the skin. Like, it is one of the easiest pigmented or more pigmented products to blend out super seamlessly. I feel like there's more pigment here than there is radiance. I just feel like this looks super healthy on the skin while being this like super buttery soft product that seamlessly diffuses out onto the cheeks. I like the fact that there are 3 shades here. I like all 3 shades. I even think like the deepest shade out here is probably one of my favorite. It's punchy, but it's flattering. This does have like a ton of different like nourishing properties. This has shea butter in it. It has different types of oils in it. This stays on my cheeks all day. At one point, this was probably the longest lasting cream blush that I had in my collection. I highly enjoy this formula. I thought about decluttering it and then I retested it because it sat in my drawer for so long because it kept getting overlooked for newer products, and then I was like, no, this is not going anywhere. I've actually been using it like quite a bit lately, otherwise I'd probably put it back in rotation. This is such a beautiful, not talked about product at all. The next ones that I have up are from Phytosurgeons. These are the Skin Spark Blush Balms. I have the more purpley shade in Condensate and the pinker shade in Fume. These are a moussey cream formula for like being what they call a balm. They feel very truffly and kind of whipped in texture. They're actually pretty intensely pigmented. I'm just not doing them justice in the cutaway. They're honestly way more intense here. They're meant to be like a pretty buildable formula. So if my cutaway is an indication of how you can kind of shear these out if you're afraid of intense pigmentation, then great. These are a really beautiful formula. Like, for being intensely pigmented and having like this soft radiant finish, they have a tremendous dry down to them. It's almost like a powdery finish that they dry down to, and they're not greasy, they're not sticky, nothing like that. These do have like a waxier texture because they are poured with waxes, and so they can like develop a film on the top of them. But if you break through like that top layer, which I really like have only had happen to me like one time, like kind of around the edges of this product, like right now, but otherwise they're so super duper creamy, pretty long lasting formula, and mostly intensely pigmented. I really do enjoy this formula. The next one that I have is from Nude Sticks. This is one of the Nudies Matte blush color. I have mine in the shade In the Nude. I don't think this is a cream to powder formula. However, it does give you a matte finish, like a soft matte or a natural matte finish. This product is super long wearing. It diffuses out with like an even pigmentation, basically like a super creamy matte formula that looks like super seamless on the cheeks. It's also supposed to be a water resistant formula, so it's supposed to be really good for like summertime and sweat. It's just super easy to blend out. I love the pigmentation here. It's supposed to give you like a rich colored pigmented payoff, and I think it does that. Brush on the end, absolutely useless. Could have done without that. my packaging doesn't like close all the way. So that kind of is a little bit annoying, but those are two like silly things aside from formula. Otherwise, all the good stuff with this. Pretty similar formula, honestly, is the next one up from ABH. It's just their stick blush. I have mine in the shade Latte. This one also does come with a brush that looks like I have tried to use it. That's also like a useless tool for me. This one, like the nude sticks, just has like this great buildable, pigmented, like soft focus effect when it gets on the cheeks. I think the ABH one though, as you can see from the cutaway, it like gives you more radiance than the Nude Sticks Nudies Matte. This is not meant to be like a fully matte formula, just supposed to look blurred on the skin, and it's supposed to give you kind of like a natural glowy finish, essentially is what this is supposed to give. I love how easy and creamy this product is to like work with. I feel like you can draw this on or pick it up with a brush, kind of idiot proof. I think this one and the Nude Sticks, like they're both super idiot proof like stick formulas in my opinion, and that's why I like them a lot better than a lot of the other stick ones that I was talking about. Both of these just, I mean, they could be transposed, I guess. I like the little bit of like natural radiance that the ABH one gives. The next one up is again like a multitasking product. This is the Pot Rouge for lips and cheeks in Calypso Coral from Bobbi Brown. The way they describe this is giving you like a soft glow of sheer color. Even though it says like a sheer color, this is intense. This is a super intensely pigmented product that is really long lasting on the cheeks. The reason it's like ranked where it did, I think, is because it has like a sticky finish to it. Like it's not like a fully cream to powder formula. It's not like matte. It has like a little bit of stick to it, but it's not the kind that your hair gets in. It does give you a pretty decent radiant finish. Again, I think the radiance matches the pigmentation here. I just don't believe that it's sheer. It's just like highly intensely pigmented. This is such a lovely, lovely little formula, like super trusty. Again, one of those idiot proof formulas in my personal opinion. Another formula here that not a lot of people talk about, and I have seen people try this, but I don't think they appreciate it the way that I do. This is the Oma Beauty by Sharon C, the more affordable line that's sold in Walmart and CVS. This is the Flawless IRL blush. I have mine in the shade Audacity. This again is a cream to powder formula, which I told you guys I am a sucker for. It's an immensely like smooth, flat texture. It's one of the better cream to powder formulas that I have in my collection because it's just so perfectly balanced cream to powder formula that gives you that really smooth texture that just melts into the skin. The thing that makes this pretty unique from like a matte finish, it has micro pearls in it with pigments that are supposed to give it like a luminous finish, even though it's like a cream to powder, so it's like fully dried. It also has mica and what they call like pearl content in it. If you can see in the cutaway, you can tell it has luminosity, but it is a completely dry formula. And I feel like that is where this product gets like overlooked from people who try it, like, oh, it's a cream to powder formula. Yes. With like mica and pearls inside of the pigmentation that give it a glow that don't make it look metallic, but this product locks onto your skin and lasts all day. And if you love a cream to powder formula because it gives you that really smooth, even diffused airbrushed texture, then this is a unique product that does that. Anyway, I just love this thing. The next two, one is probably trying to dupe the other. They could be transposed for me, honestly. I love both of these formulas. The first one that I want to talk about is the Moira Love Heat Cream Blush. This one is in the shade I Respect You. This is another product that is super intensely pigmented that feels like it has like a whipped texture. Like this could be the stickier equivalent to the Phytosurgeon's blushes, honestly, because they have really even pigmentation and a really thick texture to them. The difference is the Love Heat Cream Blush from Moira Beauty has a bit of a stickier finish, where the Phytosurgeon's, I told you guys, is like basically a powdered finish. This is a product that does have coconut oil in it and aloe vera extract, like a lot of these blushes do, but I'm trying to like point that out. Not all of them are made with oils, even though they're like a smoother formula. This one does give you like a natural dewy finish. I just find this one particularly gives me intense pigmentation that I feel like sometimes is a little bit too intense. So if you guys see in my cutaway, like I'm definitely patting out the edges here because sometimes they do look a little bit rough. So with this product, if I use a brush, I like to like tap it off on the back of my hand first to diffuse some of that pigmentation before I bring it to my cheeks. Otherwise, it's a great formula. It just has a tiny bit of a sticky finish, like even more so than the Bobbi Brown that I feel like is similarly formulated, except that it starts off like a harder formula, whereas this one is like more moussey. The next ones that I want to talk about are the Tower 28 Beach Please blushes. You guys, these are almost identical. These have aloe vera flora extract. These have castor seed oil instead of the coconut seed oil. They're almost like the same formula as the Moira, except that they're like a little bit thinner. They still feel whipped, but they're not as thick. So they're like a little bit less intensely pigmented. They are, again, like ultra glowy like the Moira Beauty ones. They just have that really dewy, luminous finish. I just find the Tower 28 ones dry down just a hint better than the Moira Beauty ones. They're not quite as sticky, even though they're almost identical in terms of the ingredients and in terms of the way they apply to the skin. Again, just not quite as pigmented as the Moira Beauty ones, so they're a little bit of an easier formula to work with. Next up, you guys, is a new release, but I love it already. This is the Good Apple Blush Balm Duo from KVD. I have mine in the shades, or color story, I guess, Secret Thicket. This one's supposed to be Hidden Apple, and this one over here is in Hollowed Apple. I guess I wasn't expecting to like love this product as much as I did. It seems like a whipped texture, even though they call it a balm. Like, it's pretty thick, but it buffs out to a really thin formula that feels like kind of a powdered finish. But it's an even application on the skin. You can really buff this in. It looks nice, like along the edges of it. It really does have a nice, very, very slight radiance to it. The effect once you blend it into the skin is like velvety. It's one that reminds me a lot of like the Oma Beauty blush, except Oma is a cream to powder formula, whereas this one isn't. This is just a really interesting product. You'd think this would be a really difficult, like thick formula to blend into the cheeks, but it's actually a lot simpler, like once you start using it. And I just love the way it looks. I honestly think it's super airbrushed, super blurring on the cheeks, and it's a really long-lasting formula. The next one that I have up is the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Blush. I have mine in the shade Rose. They do sell two versions of this. So they have the pH shift, and I think they have two shades in like the normal non-pH changing shift. I have mine in the pH changing one, but you wouldn't know it unless you like looked it up on their website. I didn't know it for like the longest time. It says it's supposed to shift with your natural pH, but it's already a pink shade anyway. So I feel like it comes out pink. Super juicy on the cheeks. It has brightening mineral pigments in it that are really supposed to give you like this natural juicy glow. I just like this a lot more than I thought I would. It's this product that makes you look immensely plump, but the pigmentation matches the radiance. I feel like underneath that glossy finish is pigment that like really like locks onto your skin. And even when like the gloss fades, the pigment is still there, which I think is a very beautiful quality in a blush. It's just super juicy. That's what this has that a lot of the other ones don't. Decent pigmentation while being really juicy. I actually have a couple upcoming that aren't even as long lasting as this. And the reason that this one kind of got put where it did, I think, is because it has like that sticky finish to it. It's not my preferred finish. I love the way that this looks on the cheeks. I love the longevity. Plus this is packed with like a ton of different things like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. I do believe this has like some oils in it, a ton of different fruit extracts, but the effect of it is just plumping and lovely and juicy. Next up, I have the M Cosmetics Pillow Plush blushes. I always have a hard time saying that. The pinker shade is in Peanut, and then the more purple shade is in Tickled. It reminds me a lot of like the Half Magic. This is not a cream to powder formula though. This is supposed to be a hybrid formula that has like gel cream and powder in it. So it's a bunch of different like formulas to give you this like super bouncy, pillowy texture. It also has a ton of good ingredients like ceramides and peptides and vitamin E, which usually helps like condition and hydrate the skin. I love ceramides and peptides in my skincare, so you can add that to my blush. That's totally fine. I think this is like a beautiful finish to the skin though. It has that natural matte looking, airbrushed finished quality about it that makes this formula, again, kind of idiot proof for me. The only two downsides I see to this is just like the Half Magic, where you can like see the base of the pan already because of this formula. Like you're just pushing this like gel texture kind of around, and also you could have made this bigger. Like I hate dead space in products. I mean, there are a couple in here that are like that. And for such a small product retailing for, I want to say these are like 26 bucks. She could have done better, but otherwise I think it is a beautiful, beautiful airbrushing soft matte finished formula. Another really idiot proof formula in my personal opinion is the MAC Glow Play Blush. This one is in Cheer Up. This honestly isn't that dissimilar to the one from M Cosmetics. She could have been trying to like emulate this formula. I think that the MAC Glow Play has more like natural radiance in it. This doesn't have any like oils or anything inside the formula, but it is the same kind of like bouncy, pillowy formula that the M Cosmetics one is, that is supposed to be like this cushiony texture. It's literally foolproof. I say idiot proof, foolproof, whatever. I just feel like this buffs into the skin with like 3 taps of the brush or the sponge and boom, it locks onto the skin because it's like a powdery kind of finish, even though this one has like the teeniest bit of radiance to it. Another really good product, very similar to M Cosmetics. All right, another very similar formula is from Kaja. It's the Mochi Pop. It's supposed to be the bouncy blendable blush. I have mine in the shade 02, which is Atmosphere. Again, not a lot of product here. It's like they want to do like a small amount of product in these little compacts. Again, I think this is foolproof. This one happens to be a cream to powder formula very similar to the M Cosmetics. Basically an effortless and seamless blend onto the cheeks with decent pigmentation. This one is more of like a matte finish, but it's gorgeous. Again, a product that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. I don't know if they sell this on Sephora's website, maybe anymore, but they definitely sell it like Nordstrom and JCPenney and on the Kaja website. They probably sell it a bunch of other places. I don't know if they're still selling it on Sephora's website. I do still have like my little thing on here. I feel like it's definitely kept the product still creamy. Good travel size too. Like it's an effortless cream to powder formula that lasts on the cheeks. There is something about a cream to powder formula for me that I quite enjoy, that I will forever call idiot proof. The next one up is a K-beauty brand that I do not hear a lot of people talking about. It's the Jelly Blusher from Halika. Jelly Dough Blusher, pardon me. I have mine in the shade Grapefruit Jelly. This one I feel like is the most airbrushed of all of them. This is another cream to powder formula that feels like jelly-like texture. It's very pillowy. It's very similar to the MAC Glow Play. It's very similar to the M Cosmetics. Like all of these that are lumped into this particular category perform very similarly. I think this one just gives you the most airbrushed quality on the cheeks. It's the most flattering of the cream to powder formulas that seem to have like a soft matte finish. This one just isn't flat. It has the slightest bit of radiance to the cheeks. Honestly, it's just the most flattering of all the ones that are very similar to this. Plus, this is a super long-lasting formula. I just feel like this one is the absolute most flattering when it gets to the cheeks. The next one up is the Stila Convertible Color. This is another one that's the dual lip and cheek cream. This one is in Gerbera. It's another one of those that feels like thicker, that is like a whipped moussier texture, but it blends seamlessly. It has the right amount of pigmentation to glow to it. It's really juicy on the cheeks without being translucent. It has somewhat of a better dry down than some of the other ones. Like once you buff it into the cheeks, you can get this to really lock onto the skin. Again, it kind of comes down to like how seamless this blend is. Like something in the formula here makes it immensely blendable and super airbrush on the cheeks without like leaving harsh lines while having the right amount of pigmentation. I just love these. I honestly, not enough people talk about these as it pertains to cream formulas. Gorgeous, underrated, not talked about enough formula. Moving on to Sigma. This is their cream blush. I have mine in the shade Corderosa. This is another very thin, very lightweight formula that matches pigmentation to the amount of radiance. It gives you a dewy flush of color. It's just very seamless on the skin. It's one of those that's like such a thin formula that almost feels like it dries down to like a powder finish. So it has no sticky afterthought. I find because it almost feels like a powdery finish, it lasts a little bit longer on the cheeks, but it looks super natural and it's very, very easy to apply, very foolproof. Again, I think I love like a lightweight formula that has really good pigmentation that also like looks airbrushing and kind of powder-like. Something about the quality of this particular product just really draws me in. I just find it kind of a more sophisticated and more refined formula. All right, next up, you guys, you can only get in store at the Dollar General. I have to talk about this. It's the Color Me Cream Blush from Believe Beauty. These retail for $5.25 now. Again, there's something beautiful and simple about this formula. It reminds me so much of the Sigma, except it's $30 less expensive. It's super lightweight and it's immensely pigmented that matches its radiance that almost feels like it dries down to a powdery finish, but still has that slight natural glow, that slight radiance. And because it feels like it kind of dries down to that powder finish, it lasts all day. It and and Sigma are like almost the same exact formulas. Honestly, $30 difference. I highly recommend you check this out. The downside to this one, in addition to you only being able to get it in stores at the Dollar General, is that this only comes in 2 shades so far as I know, where the Sigma comes in more shades. But this one in Dollface, you guys, is so beautiful. It's like a super cool toned pink that I feel like is really flattering because it's so cool toned for a variety of different skin tones. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of how I feel about this particular shade. Next up is from Mob Beauty. This is one of their cream clay blushes. I have mine in the shade M72. There's a couple of reasons that I really enjoy this product. It's not terribly dissimilar to some of the ones that I was telling you about that are like clay-like, moussey in texture or just a little bit thicker. But the reason that I like this one a little bit more is because it comes in a really good variety of shades. Number one, it's less expensive, coming in at $28. This, because it's a clay formula, offers a semi-matte finish, but they have something in this that's formulated with what they call man-made mica. If you guys are looking at the cutaway and me applying this, you can see it's not a fully matte finish. It's supposed to be a semi-matte, and whatever that man-made mica is, gives it the tiniest bit of radiance. But because it's a clay formula, it locks onto the cheeks. It's a really long lasting, like all day formula here, but it isn't fully like flat matte, you know? It gives that tiny little bit of radiance without being like shimmery. Next up is a product I don't hear enough people talking about, in my opinion, when they talk about this brand. So this is the Lip to Cheek from RMS Beauty. This is a little bit of a stiffer formula. You like do have to warm it up with your fingers, but once you do, I feel like it's super easy to pick up on like the button of a sponge or even a brush, and it blends into the cheeks really well. Again, it's one of those products that I'm going to refer to as the pigmentation matches the radiance. This does have her beriti oils, which she puts in a lot of stuff, and I feel like that makes it seamlessly blend into the skin, and it's a little bit of a softer formula. This also has shea and cocoa butters in it. I feel like the pigmentation here is pretty concentrated. You can build it up to pretty intense. I like this product because I feel like it's a more buildable formula than some of its counterparts. It's much more of a buildable formula as you keep going without it feeling heavy on the skin. Again, it's just about the finish here. Like super blendable, beautiful, like natural radiance with the matching amount of pigmentation and decent longevity on this. It's a really nice product from RMS Beauty. The next one I have is the blush from Rose Inc. It's another one of the lip and cheek colors. I have mine in the shade Camellia, I think is how it's pronounced. This is genuinely my favorite product from Rose Inc. I've tried the bronzer, don't love it. Tried a bunch of other stuff from Rose Inc. Don't love any of them, have decluttered all of it except this. I think this is a really good cream blush formula. It's whipped in texture. It's like pretty dang thick. It's probably one of the thickest like whipped textures. It blends seamlessly into the skin. Again, probably with any different applicator, different tool, different sponge, different brush. It basically buffs out perfectly. This is infused with squalene and ceramides, which I told you I like ceramides in skincare or in makeup products. That's completely fine with me. I love that this is a buildable formula too for the type of product that it is, that it feels like this really whipped moussey texture. It doesn't come out immensely pigmented right away. You can really sheer this product out, and I love the longevity on it. Just something about this and the way that it looks on the skin gives me this really nice emotion and it seems to perform really well. Again, something I kind of call like idiot proof. I highly recommend this little toilet seat. Up next are the Pat McGrath, I mean these have like a super long name, the Divine Blush Legendary Glow Color Bombs. And I know that she's actually releasing, I think, 2 more shades in this, so it had to have been popular enough to want to launch 2 more shades. I think there were a lot of people that didn't like this blush when it released last year, but I happen to love it like immediately. It is a balm, but I feel like it is definitely more pigmented in actual application than I thought it was going to be. If you swatch it, it looks like it could sheer out, but I think the pigment holds pretty well. I will say though, the 2 shades that I have, Peach Lotus and Paradise Peony, look very, very similar when they get to the cheeks. I'm putting on Paradise Peony in the cutaway, but you couldn't tell if I didn't tell you. That would be one downside to these blushes, is that they feel like they're just not pigmented enough, and the shades do tend to kind of come out similar. These are a balm, so they're a thinner formula. They do have like shea butter in them, which is antioxidant rich. Again, I told you guys I love squalene. These are also like non-comedogenic. They're supposed to help with like oil production. They blend seamlessly into the skin because they're such a lightweight, creamy formula. It really does look intensely juicy on the skin. It's a non-greasy balm formula. It also isn't like immensely sticky, not as much as like some of the other ones that are comparable in terms of formula. It's just a beautiful, glossy, radiant finish product that I think looks actually flattering on the cheeks. I don't think these get enough credit, honestly. The next one up, I don't think gets enough credit either. It's the Solar Tint Blush Duo from the brand Simi Haze that sells at Sephora. This is in the shade or color story, I guess, maybe Tropic. This is a 2 finished duo blush. So on one side you get the dewy version, and on the other side like you get the matte finish. These are perfect. Matte side is like a velvety cream formula that's like nicely pigmented, that really airbrushes into the cheeks. It almost feels like it has like a powdery finish. And the other side feels like a balm that really just like melts seamlessly into the skin. They both look super airbrushing. The pigmentation matches the dewiness on the radiant side. Like everything about the way these look on the cheeks is super flattering. I will say though that the dewy side has a little bit of a stick to it, but I just love having a product that has like 2 finishes. So depending upon what I'm going for, I can reach for either side, but I love the shade also. I love the finish and the way that both sides look on the skin. So I never feel like I'm reaching for one side or the other in that one performs better than the other one. I feel like they both perform equally well. Another underrated product in my opinion. The next one up is the REM Beauty Eclipse Lip and Cheek color, I think is what they are. So another multi-use product. I would say that this is like a cream to powder formula just based on the way that it feels. They do describe this as like being a balm. It's only pretty lightweight when you like blend it out. It definitely feels like a little bit of a heavier texture when you first put it on your skin. This product just has a lot going for it though. It is a really creamy formula that is very easy to work with. You can draw this onto the cheeks and blend it out without it getting stuck in places. A lot of times I will also just like pick this up with a brush and it buffs into the skin perfectly. It is one of the most long-lasting blushes that I have in my collection. Very similar to Seraphine Botanicals. It really locks down and stays all day. When you swatch this, it looks a lot more intense than the like final effect that you can get with this. You can sheer this product out in a way that it doesn't seem like you can, but you can also build this up with great intensity. It's just a really nice product from REM Beauty. Another one that I have decluttered so much from this line, but held on to just this product because I think it's really, really good in formulation. The next ones up are the Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veils. I always get that wrong. Cream blushes from Makeup by Mario. I have Barely Blushing, and then I have Just Peachy. I mean, if you like a radiant blush, how could you not like these? They're literally like weightless. They have no texture to them. They feel like this lightweight balm that literally makes your cheeks look like they're 2 inches higher on your face when you put them on. The only reason I could see you not liking this product is if you didn't like a radiant blush or if you liked something a little bit more long lasting. I just don't find that I have anything else that applies so seamlessly that gives me this radiant finish that literally makes me look like 2 years younger. Like my cheeks just feel 2 years younger every time I wear these. They have pearlescent pigments in them that are supposed to give you that really radiant dewy finish. They also have hyaluronic acid in them to be a little bit more of a hydrating property. They're meant to be a sheer veil of color, thus being called the blush veils. Anyway, I just love the way that these look on the cheeks, especially with like a super fluffy brush. You can really dig into the compact pretty easily. So part of it is also packaging and how easy it is to just apply to the cheeks. I love them if I'm not looking for something long lasting. The next one that I have up is the Baby Cheeks Blush from Westman Atelier. I think the reason that I like this, even though I like have a ton of sticks in my collection, and some of them are fairly comparable in terms of formulation, is because this formula is just so darn creamy without being like slippy. It doesn't feel like it has oils in it, even though it's like the most medium weight stick formula that is just very, very creamy. There's just something like overall sophisticated about this formula. I do not think I do the application to this blush justice in the cutaway. I would equate this more to like a medium weight silk stick formula. It's very natural looking. I have mine in the shade Petal. I apologize, I did not mention that, which I think is their most popular shade. And I also just love the packaging. There is something about how sturdy a blush is. I don't think that ranked in terms of like formulation here in my like overall ranking of this. I think what just ultimately does it is that it's the best medium weight stick formula that is the most creamy, which makes it very easy to apply to the skin. But a formula that I prefer even more, that I've had in my collection for a while, is the So Soft Stick Blush from M Cosmetics. Again, there is a balance here that makes this immensely easy formula to work with. By the way, I have mine in the shade Venetian Rose. It has like this very airy, soft, blendable texture. She says that she has balanced in here powders and emollients that I believe are just like so perfectly balanced. They make this a creamy formula that blends into the cheeks super seamlessly. It has really decent pigmentation, but again, those powders, once they buff out, look immensely airbrushing on the skin. One of my, or if not my longest lasting stick blush formula in my collection. It's just like a pillowy, airbrushing, pigmented delight that has the perfectly balanced amount of pigments and emollients in it. I think that it's a matte finish, but it's not matte flat looking. It has like maybe a natural bit of luminosity here because of those emollients that she has mixed in this formulation. Next up is another fairly new release. This is the Nude Sticks Nudies Matte Plus Glow Core. This is in the shade Rose Glow. This is supposed to be a peptide plumping blush. It does have ceramides and plumping peptides in it. It does have vitamin E, which is a natural antioxidant. I was expecting this to be like the core of the blush being the glowy part of the product, and then it was just going to be like a matte blush all over, but it's not at all. The whole product has like radiance and sheen to it. It's just like the perfect version of the Nudies Matte with glowy radiance to it because it has a beautiful amount of pigmentation that matches the glow. It basically looks airbrushing. Again, it blends seamlessly. It doesn't matter like if I'm using a brush or a sponge with this. It's more pigmented, I think, than some more radiant products. It's just beautiful. It's like super creamy right now at the current moment. This happens to be like my favorite stick blush. The next one up I have talked about in like my best sellers Sephora products that I think are actually worth the hype. This is the Cheek Clapper 3D Blush Trio from One Size. I have mine in the shade Very That. It comes with a cream, it comes with a matte powder, and then a shimmery powder. I have heard people say that they don't like this product because it's ultra pigmented. I actually think it's more of a buildable. You can like shear this formula out if you want to. It's kind of a whipped texture. It feels like it has like oils in it or like a silicone base without actually having those ingredients. That just gives it like a smooth, silky, soft texture. It blends and blurs into the skin very beautifully. The cream is a matte finish, but it's not like flat on the skin. It doesn't look like you painted pigment on your cheeks, which I don't like. I have talked about that. Like if you're gonna give me a matte finish, I just don't want it to look super flat. But this formula lasts all freaking day. It's such a beautiful, easy, foolproof product. Again, I can pick this up with a brush, with a sponge. I can shear it out if I want to, or build it up to super intensity without looking flat on the cheeks. I just think it's a really, really good product. The next one that I have is the Major Headlines Double Take Cream and Powder Blush Duo in Do We Know Her from Patrick Ta. I have another shade. I have one of the other spring shades that released. There were 3. I picked up one of them. This is another like super lightweight cream formula. This actually has like a little bit of stick to it, but it's such a unique product in that it is one of those that you really can layer blush underneath and this on top without it picking up any of the product, where I don't find a lot of blushes you can do that with. Additionally, I think this is another one of those foolproof products where you just don't need a lot of experience in blending to get a really seamless application with this. It has in it what's called the patented biometric pigments that's supposed to mirror the skin's like natural ceramide structure that's supposed to make it adhere to the skin and last longer on the skin. This does give you a natural finish when worn on its own. It has like a slight bit of radiance to it. It also has micronized pigments in it that are supposed to give you a more even, like seamless, flawless amount of pigmentation that blends into the skin very well, which I think gives you that really nice, very seamless payoff on the cheeks. It's again, just a foolproof cream blush product. I came late to this. I didn't try this as soon as a lot of other people, but I think it is got the hype for good reason. We are down or at our top 5 of my favorite cream blushes in my collection. Starting off with the one in 5th place from the top. This is the Ritual Defy Inner Glow Cream Pigment in the shade Desire. There is something so seamless about the blend of this. This is a different kind of formulation. In the finish, it says that it's supposed to give you a dewy matte finish. I don't think any other of these cream blushes have described themselves in that way, that it gives you a dewy matte finish. But if you guys see in the cutaway just how seamless this looks on the skin. The amount of luminosity compared to the amount of pigmentation and the evenness and the seamless way that it blends into the skin, I feel like is kind of unmatched for a radiant product like this. It feels sticky to the touch, but once you blend it in, it's not sticky at all. It's almost like it turns into a powdered finish. I'll let the cutaway speak for itself, you guys. I think this is gorgeous, especially in the shade in Desire. It's quite unique. It's just a beautiful, beautiful product from Ritual Defy. Okay, the next one I definitely talked about being probably like one of my favorite releases of 2023. This is the Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder from Danessa Myricks that has a really, really long name. This one is in the shade Rosé and Brunch. This one did win Allure Best of Beauty for 2023. It gives you like a soft matte finish. It is a cream to powder formula, but it's made with something called Upsolate, which is the first time I think I've heard of Upsolate when she came out with these blushes, which is supposed to absorb excess sebum and sweat while still keeping you hydrated. This one also has hyaluronic acid and squalene, which I told you I really do enjoy squalene. The finish, even though it's matte though, isn't flat like I keep mentioning I really don't like in a matte finish blush, where they do have some of them. I think some of the old soft pinch blushes from Rare Beauty looked very flat on the cheeks, where a product like this is like a cream to powder formula, has blurring qualities about it that make it look seamless on the cheeks, as opposed to like this really intense layer of pigmentation that makes it look flat. It really does give you like a smoothing effect, like a soft blurred effect on the face that really just like refines your pores and your fine lines. Like, it's overall just super flattering. I love the pigmentation on this. Also, I think it's pretty intense, even though it calls itself like buildable. I think it comes out more intense. Also, it's a product I don't care what applicator I'm using. It picks up on a brush, a sponge, everything is perfect. The cutaway should speak for itself. This is just beautiful once applied to the face. I really enjoy this product. Again, one of my favorites for 2023. I wish there were more shades that I could use. I feel like that's probably the only one that would work for my skin tone. So I would like to see like maybe lighter shades come out that aren't like a bright pink. The next ones I also talked about as being some of my absolute favorite releases for 2023. These were the Say Glow Sculpt. These were also Allure Best of Beauty winners, I think in the clean category for 2023. I want to say these are probably the most unique formula in my collection because they're this like blush highlighter hybrid that feel like a whipped texture but have like this pigmentation inside of it that makes it luminous. It's not like a dewy finish, it's more like a cream to powder formula that has pearlescent pigments in it that give this really like moisturizing like pop of almost like metallic color to the cheeks. Very specifically, it's micro pearls that are in it, which is supposed to be just like finely milled particles of mica that just give it that like luminous finish. I think overall the effect of it is just gorgeous. I started out with the orangey shade in Peach Glow, and I went back very recently for Mauve Glow, and I am really enjoying Mauve Glow. It's even more kind of like radiant and pearlescent. It's probably got more mica in it than the Peach Glow. I just think it's a really unique formula, and I oftentimes like me a shimmery blush that isn't like overemphasizing the texture or isn't glittery in its like pigmentation or its finish. And I feel like because this kind of feels like a cream to powder formula, it also locks down on the cheeks. So it's a pretty long lasting formula as well. The next ones up have been some of my favorite for a while. They're a little bit of an older formula. These are the cream blush lights from Melt. I have to give it to Melt. I have Honey Thief, which is like a more orangey shade, and the pinker shade is in Pink Sand. There is something so emollient and creamy about this like kind of whipped textured formula. There is not a ton of information on this product on Melt's website or basically anywhere. I don't even know if you can get these on Sephora's website anymore. They feel like they have an emollience in them that makes them super blendable, but they also have like a powder effect that makes it lock down. But the balance here is so much better than a lot of these other compact blushes. They're the most creamy, kind of soft matte finish of all the compacts that I have. The pink one that I'm putting on in the cutaway, you guys, I did a lighter application so you could see it can come out more sheer if you want it to. And then I put the Pink Sand on like pretty heavy so you could see how well that these layer up and how buildable they are while still looking super skin-like. I just freaking love these things from Melt. I literally don't hear anybody talking about this formula formula anymore, or if they do in their declutters, they're getting rid of these. Like, I would never get rid of these. I'll tell you what, if these go bad, I'm going to Melt's website and I'm getting myself some more. That's how good and sophisticated I think this formula is. All right, you guys, my absolute #1 cream blush in my collection at the current moment, and this could change, are the Armani Neo Nude Melting Color Bombs. These I wish were not as hard to get anymore. I don't even think you can get these on Sephora's website anymore. I had to pick up an additional shade from Armani's website. Let me just show you the magic of this, please. Please let me show you the absolute magic of this pigmentation. It's incredible. I have this shade in 30 that I'm putting on, and the additional shade I picked up is 60, which is a more plum shade. What makes this such a creamy formula where the pigment carries is that it is an oil in powder formula that is supposed to blend seamlessly into the skin. It's supposed to give you a buildable blush of color. It is so natural, matte, and airy, and seamless, and airbrush looking on the skin. It's so freaking mistake proof. I wish I had done a better job in applying it. I looked at the footage back and I was like, this blush looks so much better when you do a better job like applying it. It's such a lightweight texture that it looks healthy on the skin. Something about that oil and powder formula just gets me. Again, I wish these were easier to get, but it seems like Armani's website does have at least 4 shades still available. Let me show you the additional shade that I picked up in the shade 60, which is like a plum shade. I don't feel like any of the shades that are left are something that I would like. I wish I had picked up like a better color shade for me when these originally came out. This one might be like a little bit deep. It has to be something in this like oil to powder formula that makes these so freaking creamy and so freaking seamless on the cheeks. It's my favorite formula. I probably said that maybe even last year in 2023, I said that this was one of my favorite releases that came out last year. That was all 59 of my freaking cream blushes that I've ranked for you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, if you guys are interested in seeing liquid blush ranking and the powder blush ranking upcoming and you are not currently subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I'd also love to hear in the comments like which one you would like to see next. I'll do the same thing where I will apply each one of them to my cheeks so that you guys can see. Again, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'd love to hear in the comments below some of your favorites. I have been filming for so freaking long, so I'm out of here and I hope to catch y'all in my next one. Bye guys.